Hello, in this episode we're going to work on putting the Thumper Fab metal doors on our Can-Am Defender. Now the first thing you want to start with is removing the door nets. And you want to remove the screw here, 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 and these other spots. Remove that door net first before you start on any of the other parts of the project. Now, I started this last night. It ended in darkness and kind of chaos because of just trying to figure everything out. So I got the driver's side on. I know what's going on now. So we're going to work through the passenger side and I'll show you how it goes. So here's the driver's door installed. I think it came out really nice. Latch mechanism on the inside. Opens up real nice. I put my mirror back on where it's at. Everything functions nicely. Everything works. I'm pretty happy with it. So now on to the passenger side. But first thing I do with it on the passenger side is I lay out all the parts. Oh, I'm in the shadow here. Okay, so there's all my parts. Now the nice thing about this kit from Thumper Fab, all the parts have P and D on for what side they go on. So the paper instructions were a little confusing, as most instructions are. The biggest downfall with this is it's black doors with a little picture with black parts. So it's very difficult to see like what that bracket shape is because it's so dark in the picture and it's small. That's okay. You know, they don't want to spend a lot of money on instructions that most people aren't going to read anyway. So I figured it out with the driver's side. Now on the passenger side, hopefully it goes together smoother. So you remove them. Then you have to remove this piece of plastic and the door bar, even if you remove the nets prior. So we're going to do that first. I'm going to remove this piece of plastic with the Torx and these two little plastic clips. Now I take all the hardware, put it in a cup holder. So then when I need something again, I know where it's at. And you pull the plastic cover off. Now the instructions show to trim this. I got mine to work without trimming. And the reason why, I'd rather not trim this because all these pieces are expensive to replace down the road. So say I smash one of these doors and I take them off for whatever reason. I go to trade the machine in, sell the machine, and I don't put the doors on, what have you. I don't want to have to go replace this. I'd rather replace a bracket, a spacer, something of the sort than this. So I found a way to make this so we don't have to modify it, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so now we have to remove the door bar, or the shoulder bar here. The easiest way, remove the seat. All right, so the seat back's removed. Now there's a Torx right up here. And then down the bottom, there's two of the small nut or bolts to pull out. If I remember correctly, they're 10 millimeter. And that easy, the door bar is off. So now you can get to everything else. So assembly is important. So the next thing we're going to assemble is the door hinge. So the little brass bushings get put in, the bumper, and these are the bolts that go down through. Now, some of the nuts don't necessarily go on this thread pitch, so be careful. If you have one that goes on part of the way and then you hit it with the impact, it's going to snap the bolt. I did that yesterday. So here, case in point. See this nut? See how it threads all the way into the nylock part? But then on this one, it only goes in like 2 threads and it binds up. But the nuts look identical. So it's picking out which ones. Okay, so I got all my hardware. I'm gonna put my hammer here. Now to tap in these bushings, you don't need anything fancy. All I did was lightly tap them there with a hammer, give it a couple smacks, right in. Plain simple. So now these are marked with upper and lower on them, which is nice. So that helps. So we got upper, lower, we got the bolts, a couple washers, and the bump stop. Now the bump stop goes on the upper. And where the bump stop goes, out here, like that. So I'll tighten that up in a minute. So then it's really just sliding it in and then putting the bolt down through here. I put that on backwards. Okay. This is how it goes. Minor mistake there. It's all right. Well, and another thing, you gotta watch you make a mistake. See how the U's upside down? Well, it's not supposed to be like that. So, you need to make sure it's in the correct way, which would be so where my hiccup is, I'm putting the U up, how it's supposed to be. But this hinge is identical to the driver's side. So if this was identical to the driver's side, the gap would be different. If I flip this over, then it'll be a passenger side hinge. So I did not see that in the instructions. I'm not too concerned with it, but I'll just make it work. Whether they have a separate driver's side and passenger side hinge or not, I don't know, but I'm gonna flip this one over. Now, what I'm messing with here is, when it was punched, the one plug stayed in, so I just gotta knock this plug out. That's all it took. Okay, so now, I'm gonna put this in upside down. That's better. That looks correct now. So part of it was me, part of it was that you confusing me. Now we'll see the lower. It's going to be the exact same way. It's going to be flipped over also. And if the company designed it to be flipped over, hey, it makes it easier. They don't have to make as many hinges. Like I said, I just didn't read it that far in the instructions because they were kind of a pain in the butt last night when I was doing it. So I figured it out doing the driver's door where everything's correct. But the passenger door, I'm going off of memory now. Okay, so now I have the hinges loosely installed. So now we have to work on the roll bar bolts. So I'm going to remove them, which is the 15 millimeter. Now, you don't want to remove them both. If you remove them both, that roll cage could come popping out. And they give you different bolts to put back in. They get replaced with the other gold bolts that are in there. They go in from the outside. That was one thing that kind of confused me a little bit. So, and you slide the bolt in, then you slide the spacer, then the nut, but you got to put the bracket on first. So now it's mounted. Now I can tighten these up while I have a secure mount to hold. So now we're going to go to the 13 millimeter. And like I said, I may not be doing it the way the instructions talk about. I just found this easier. If it helps you, great. If you want to go step by step with the instructions, go for it. So now that's snugged up. I like the top hinge a little snug. Both of them are actually a little snug, so we're good there. Okay. So now we have all the other brackets to attach. But before I do that, I want to put this back on. And if I'm remembering correctly, top, front, yes, all the other brackets will go in after. Like right there, it's back on factory location. I like the look of it from the factory. I don't want to have it too modified. Just gonna put the plastic pins back in. Okay, so all the bolts, roll cage, hinge, everything's tight there. Now the next bracket is this bracket, which goes over top of this to the bolts here on the back of the cage and bolts on right there. That is these little black bolts. Now make sure they all thread in loosely before I go too far. So now that bracket's on, time to tighten it up. Okay, those are tight. Now I'm just going to snug these down. So now that is on there solid. Next bracket is a combination of these two. So what this does is it bolts on to the factory hole here where the window net was. Then this mounts on like this. It's kind of a, oh, I'm sorry, the other way. Like this. So it helps to anchor everything to the roll cage. So and I always just loosely install everything first. Make sure everything lines up. That support bracket's on, getting really solid now. Now I'm going to just loosely hang the striker just so it is out of the way. What this does is goes in like that, and you put the bolts in there. Now the next step is to put the trim on the doors. Now this is kind of a tedious, pain in the butt process, but you'll thank yourself in the long run for it. So I'm going to do that next. Okay, I have all the gaskets installed on here, all the way around. So now I can hang the door. So to hang the door, slide the hinges in through the holes. Now it's loosely mounted. Gotta get the hardware, put that in. Again, the little black bolts. Now they're being a little stubborn, so I just snugged them up. If I have to loosen them up later, I will. So like here, I gotta raise the door up a little bit. So I do have to make some adjustments. There was a lot of powder coat in the holes, so they just wouldn't go in right. So I just wanted to snug them down to make sure they were in. Now I can back them off just a hair. So I want to make sure it fits up in there like that. Much better. All right, so now we're gonna add the door striker. I actually forgot one piece. We're gonna add the spacer and this, which goes into the spot on here that held that in with a Torx last time. Now it's gonna be this little bolt. All right, so now back to this, which I need Allen's. I need the door striker. So this is the door striker. And what will happen is the little ball will go on here, which is basically this setup. So that'll go in. This will mount just like this. Okay. So that's actually a pretty good spot right there. So I'm going to try to snug up this upper one. So now pull the handle, door opens, door closes, door opens. Okay, tighten that down. Door shuts, door opens, all the way open, all the way closed. Perfect. And voila! Now I just got to get the dust off of it, and it is finished.